Hey everyone, how are you doing these days? So this next week ahead in the astrology marks the final week of Leo season, because we're going to be moving into Virgo season. We're going to be moving into that mutable earth energy. We're going to be moving away from fixed fire into mutable earth. And there's quite a big thing coming up, which I will come on to. But essentially, we've got the sun ingressing into Virgo on either the 22nd or 23rd of August, depending on where you are in the world. And 9 hours and 32 minutes after the sun moves into Virgo, we've got the new moon in Virgo. So that new moon is happening at 0 degrees of Virgo, the start of a cycle. And the new moon is a new cycle. It's a new lunar cycle. We're in Virgo season. We're kickstarting Virgo season 9 hours, 32 minutes before the new moon. So we're in a new zodiac season as well. New beginning, endings, beginnings. That theme has been continuing throughout this year and will continue to do so as well. So this new moon comes along at 0 degrees. And then at the end of September, we've got another new moon in Virgo at 29 degrees. So the final anaretic degree that a planet or a planetary body, in this case a luminary, can be in before it moves to the next sign. We've literally got a cycle within a cycle here. And that second new moon is coming with an eclipse. Yes, an eclipse. Prior to that, at the midway point between those two new moons, there is a full moon eclipse in Pisces. Yes, another eclipse. So we're entering what I term to be a pocket portal. That's what came through to me as I was looking at the charts, a pocket portal. And it is a cycle within a cycle. Because this year, when you think of the calendar year, when you think of the astrological year, whatever you want to look at, we're in a cycle. We're going to be in Virgo season. That is a cycle. Okay, and then we've got the lunar cycle beginning. We've got eclipse season starting once again. And we've got retrogrades still going on. So there's cycles of introspection, there's cycle closeouts, there's many different things happening. And of course, I've got the charts, I will show those to you. But the important thing to note here is we've got two new moons that are bookending this full moon eclipse in Pisces in the middle with the eclipse. And Virgo is, of course, relating to, when you think of earth energy, it is the physical reality. It's grounded. Okay, even though it's mutable energy, it's grounded. And the Piscean energy is more of that sort of ethereal flow. And it's particularly significant because of where the North Node and South Node are currently placed. North Node being in Pisces and South Node in Virgo. So this pocket portal, cycle within a cycle, is also activating those nodes. That's what I feel intuitively. So we've still got that essence of the, the path in which we're heading, that direction in which we're heading, our true north, if you like. That's our path. That's our path forward to where we're trying to reach. And it's relying on our inner compass, that intuition within, that source energy within, trusting our intuition to guide us and needing to surrender and go with the flow, which can be very much out of the comfort zone. And that's not so comfortable for the Virgo energy, because Virgo likes to feel in control, even though it's mutable energy. Virgo likes to have their feet on the ground, and Pisces likes to be up in the clouds. So we've got to balance the two energies here. So there's a lot going on in the astrology, and let's bring up the charts and I'll show you what I was drawn to. Okay, so bear with me whilst I do that. And of course, the sun is shining through. So let's pull up the charts. Obviously, I've got a few here. So the first one I want to show you, and I will timestamp this as well, is the sun in Virgo. Okay, so this is when the sun makes his ingress into the sign of Virgo. So 22nd or 23rd of August, depending on where you are in the world. I've just realized I've not got my microphone on, so hopefully you can hear me with no problem at all, but I charged them up specifically, and like a typical Piscean, completely just forgot to do it because I was just in the flow of everything and anything else. But hey, let's surrender to it. Let's surrender to it. So apologies for that. But yeah, 22nd or 23rd. So for us in the UK on British summertime at the moment, it's the 22nd of August at 21:34. That is the official time when the sun moves into Virgo. Okay, and you can see that on this chart here, 0 degrees, 0 minutes. The only other thing in Virgo on this chart that you can see is the South Node, which I've just talked about. So this cycle of Virgo season is, of course, going to highlight, maybe even activate that need to detach from cycles. We've been having this throughout because of the retrogrades and because of other stuff going on, but it's going to activate that Virgo energy. So it's almost going to activate that essence of needing to be in control, and not in a controlling way, but needing to kind of know that you've got things mapped out. And sometimes we have to go with the flow, okay, which is more of that Piscean energy. So just bear that in mind. So the sun will ingress into Virgo at this point, and there's many things going on. As you can see, I've marked up the chart to show you of what I've been drawn to. There's many other things happening, but this is what I've been drawn to and guided to show. And it goes without saying, when I pull up these charts for astrological events, do not take any notice of the house system on this chart. When I put this chart against the UK's chart, which I'll be doing a bit later on, that gives you context of the house system, which is the same as if I was applying it to yourself for a natal chart, horoscope, okay, or a moon scope, which I offer. So this is where you can then see what house it's relevant for yourself. But this is literally a freeze frame of the cosmos. It's the chart of the event. Okay, so take no notice of the house numbers. Okay, so we've got the sun there, and there's many things. The most prominent you can probably see is the white triangle, which is actually a yod. It's made up of a sextile and 2 quincunxes. Okay, so a yod is a finger of God. It points towards something in a chart that needs some focus or some attention, something that we need to be aware of. And it's really interesting that, of course, at this point of the new zodiac season starting, this is the sun moving into Virgo, the yod is pointing at the sun. So it's absolutely pointing at this new season ahead. It's asking us to focus on this new season ahead, and particularly our soul essence, because the sun represents the soul essence of the cosmos. And having come from Leo season, okay, I know we're still in Leo at the time of me recording this, but we're moving from Leo into Virgo, of course. So that courage that we've needed to find within us to really uphold that regal essence of the Leo energy, to show up and be seen for who we are as that authentic self. That is a sort of prelude to this Virgo season of grounding things in, okay, and getting things in order, because Virgo likes that, getting things in order. So there is focus on that. It's like, okay, the yod is pointing to it saying, okay, now you've got the courage. You know where you need to show up for yourself. And this is about showing up as your authentic self, of course. Now, let's get things in order. Let's get things planned and organized in terms of our path ahead and utilizing this energy for the greater good. At the base of the yod, we have got, so almost like the supporting cast energy, that's what it feels like to me. We've got Neptune and Saturn, both retrograde, both currently in Aries, but you can see that Saturn is at 0 degrees. So he is hovering over that cusp point that I've talked about previously, which again is highlighting endings and beginnings, because he's come from Pisces into Aries. He's now moving back into Pisces, which he will be doing on the 1st of September. So that's coming up in this pocket portal that I alluded to at the beginning. So those two are working together. They're big planets, they're big planetary forces, and there is lifting of the veil going on, and lessons and tests. We are being tested. The commitment to our path is being tested. The commitment to our sovereignty is being tested. Our boundaries are being tested. Our resilience is being tested. And lots of hidden things are being revealed. So those two are working together quite nicely, but intensely. Okay, so that's part of the supporting cast here at the base, because we still need to uncover certain things, and we still need to receive these lessons of boundaries and rules that we need to put in place in order to get things in order, which is what the focus point is, pointing at the sun in Virgo. At the other side of the base, we've got Pluto, another major force here, with this major profound transformation that is going on, that is pivotal to our new reality and the way we are engaging with others going forward, how we're innovating and what we're trying to do on our path. So that is major supporting cast energy. And it's in Aries and Aquarius. Okay, so we've got to focus on the self as well as our connections with others. And we've got to look at the fire energy within us, that resilience, that strength, but also the desire to really act on what we want, as well as trying to innovate and create new for our reality. And to do that requires this profound transformation. And this profound transformation, excuse me, frog in my throat. This profound transformation is actually being facilitated by what we're experiencing from Saturn and Neptune. Because as things are being revealed to us and we are detaching from cycles, or we are making changes, we are putting boundaries in place, whatever we might be doing, we are transforming as a result of that, and vice versa. Through our transformation, our evolution, our ascension, we're going to be more aware of the boundaries we do need to put in place. So it works both ways, but ultimately all of that is enabling this focus on the soul essence and getting things in order, almost like prioritizing ourselves on our journey. And the Leo season could have very much taught us that, and particularly because we had Mercury retrograde during Leo season. I know he's still in the shadow phase at the moment, but he is out of retrograde, excuse me. But during that time, introspection, and again, courage in speaking up, expressing ourselves so that we can be seen and recognized for who we are. So that's the Yod. Okay, now we have got some challenging energy because there is a square from the sun to Lilith in Scorpio, and there is also a square to Uranus. Okay, so any sort of sudden changes or revelations or anything like that, even kind of sudden, blunt, direct communication could have challenged this. The feeling of needing to get things in order and knowing that change is needed as part of this, and certainly change within expression, can feel challenging. Just as it's challenging to look at the shadow aspects of what's coming up. But there's acknowledgement here also about what we truly desire, because Lilith can also represent deep desires. There's shadow wounds that could be coming up. And certainly when you look at the other asteroids here in Scorpio that have been doing this merry dance for a while together now, we've got Vesta, that's sacred flame energy. We've got Juno, so there's that commitment energy. And this can also pertain to soulmate energy as well. And we've got Vesta and Juno that are in a conjunction here. So it could be some sacred flame energy here in terms of soul contracts, divine counterparts, okay, things like that. And we've got Poseidon, okay, the asteroid Poseidon. So also revealing stuff that we need to see. And in Scorpio, that's kind of real deep hidden stuff. So there could still be shadow aspects coming up that's challenging this energy. We've also got a couple of semi-squares from the sun to Mars and also to Jupiter. Okay, so Mars in Libra doesn't really like being there because Mars rules Aries. So that's the opposite sign, of course, Libra. But it is cardinal energy. So if we're taking action, we want to do it from a place of fairness and balance and reciprocity to receive that divine justice, if you like. And then Jupiter, that growth and expansion that we can receive, perhaps we might be questioning that. Where is my luck? Where is my fortune with all of this? I've been going through all of this. I've been closing out cycles. Where is this? It's kind of challenging this kind of expansion, but the expansion is happening. The growth is happening. There is a need to nurture ourselves with that Cancerian energy, to nurture ourselves through this process. And that's where Venus also is in Cancer. So it's very much about that feminine essence within all of us, nurturing us through the process of this, because we're having to close out cycles. So we need to be kind to ourselves as we're doing that. And as we're processing, the growth is happening. We might not recognize it on the surface level, but there's also a message here about needing to be open to growth, because perhaps we're closing stuff out and we're kind of like almost with the blinkers on. We've got this, the path in mind that we're wanting to achieve, but when we're not opening ourselves up to all the opportunities we could be opening ourselves up to because of shadow aspects or because of detaching from cycles that can be quite heavy and intense depending on what it is. So we want to take action, but we're like, okay, I want to take action. I want to restore the balance. And I do want to experience the growth, but perhaps limiting oneself to the opportunities of being open to those opportunities, should I say, because it's still requiring that element of needing to show up and to be our authentic self. Okay. So there could be some of that going on. So the openness to opportunities also links in with the Piscean energy that I was talking about before, about surrendering. So it's kind of like, okay, let's not try and control things too much, because that's the shadow side of Virgo. Let's instead be open to the opportunities and accept that, okay, I need to nurture myself through this process because it is a process. And any action that I need to take, yes, it does need to come from a place of balance and fairness. But maybe I'm still working that out for myself, and that's okay. So understanding there is always a bigger picture when it comes to astrology, of course. And Mars is actually in trine to Pallas. Pallas, the asteroid Pallas Athena, is in Aquarius. And that is very much the warrior spirit. There is a fight about Pallas. She will fight for what she wants. But also there is strategy. And strategy and planning ties in very nicely with the Virgo energy. So the fact that there is a harmonious trine between Pallas and Mars, that's quite nice energy between masculine and feminine, although it's not Venus, it's Pallas. So the masculine is kind of more of a stronger energy, if you like, because Mars being a planet, Pallas being an asteroid. However, there is still this fight within Pallas, and that is in common with Mars, if you like, because it is the warrior. Okay, hopefully I'm explaining it correctly here for you. But yes, there is still that fight and determination to succeed and to achieve. The challenge is needing to get things in order and needing to come from that soul essence perspective with the courage that we've obtained from Leo season, or that we're still working on, and being open to the opportunities that are presenting themselves to us, whilst also nurturing ourselves, not going full pelt ahead with just action, 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 even though we need to do that. There is a need to nurture as well. That's where the balance comes in with the feminine and masculine. But the planning and strategizing, brilliant. So that's where the Virgo energy of the Virgo season can assist us with that, because we can embrace that side of Virgo, that we like to plan and we like to get things in order because we want to know what we're doing. We still need to have the surrendering aspect, but the strategizing of it and at least having a bit of an idea of where we're going with things, perfect, because that's going to bring the balance that Mars in Libra in that placement is wanting. The other trine here is from the Sun to Chiron, and Chiron is currently in retrograde as well. So there is a healing energy to this Virgo season. And, you know, I know that every day after, the astrology is going to change. Different aspects will be made between the planets and the asteroids. But I like to look at this point when the Sun moves into a new sign as a bit of a theme for that season coming up. Things are going to pivot, of course. There's going to be other factors to take into account, but it sets a theme. And this is what I do when I would do a solar return reading for someone. It gives a theme. So there's flexibility that's needed because things are going to change. And remember, we've always got free will. That's always going to dictate things because our choices do have an impact on our reality. This is giving a theme of the energy and how we can work with that energy. So it's very healing in terms of the sovereign path because of this trine. So if we can do that from the basis of wanting to be organized about it, but still needing to surrender, nurture ourselves through this process, that is also healing our sovereignty because we're still doing stuff from a place of the self. And that's the Aries energy. That's the sovereignty, because we are having to look at what we want. And this is what has been coming up for a while now. You know, what do we want and how we can apply that going forward in view of everything else going on within the chart, of course. Okay. So I feel there's positive energy. Yes, there's going to be some challenging energy, and that's life, isn't it? We've got to accept that there might be shadow aspects still coming up, and we need to be honest with what we do desire. So if there's things coming up from the depths of our soul and we're like, yeah, I suppressed that for all this time, and this is why I didn't feel I could show up as who I truly am, because I've suppressed this part of me. And actually now it's about acceptance of the depth of who you are on a soul level, and having that as the basis to then, quote unquote, get things in order, because we're moving forward into this new reality and we need to adapt to that, but we are also in the driver's seat when it comes to that, because we're the ones in charge of our reality. So we can accept those challenges, we can accept those things coming up because we need things to be shown for us to understand. Because if everything was coming up and it was all sweet and smelling of roses and, you know, if it was all that, how would we know when we need to make a change? We wouldn't understand the difference, would we? So we need to have that challenging energy sometimes to spur us on in order for us to really understand, yeah, I've got to take action about that, or I need to investigate further about that. It allows us that experience. There was something, I think I shared this on a previous report actually. I can't remember the exact quote, but I read it somewhere ages ago and it has stayed with me. And it was a message from God, whether you believe in God or not. If you're thinking of source energy, the divine universe, whatever you like, okay, whatever resonates for you, if at all. But it was something like, it was a message from, it said message from God, and it was like, I had to make you feel uncomfortable, otherwise you wouldn't have moved. It's something like that. And that's very true, because otherwise we would just stay in that monotonous pattern, not even having any concept of what's right for us and wrong for us. So we do need that balance to come in every now and then so we can understand and we evolve through it. It is Earth school, remember. So, you know, we are receiving these lessons. And also we're learning a lot about ourselves in the process. We're understanding who we truly are. We're learning about certain things, why certain things have happened, certain patterns coming up that could be from childhood or past lives. And it's giving a lot of insight and wisdom to us. But the way we receive it might be uncomfortable because we need to be aware of these things. Okay. So that's the sun in Virgo. Now, if I can get the right chart, I think it's this one. Yeah. So this is the UK's chart in a wheel, with the event I've just shown you as the outer wheel. So this is an example of what I was saying about the house system. It gives context to the house system. So we're looking at the UK's natal chart. So your natal chart would be in the middle, for example, and that is going to show you where these aspects are happening. So for the UK, second house. Okay, so I've drawn everything on there that I've shown you on the previous chart. It's a smaller circle in the middle, so it always looks a bit busy. Okay, so we can see there we've got the sun 0 degrees, and at that time the moon is obviously still in Leo, but we know that 9 hours and 32 minutes after there's going to be a conjunction with the sun because we got the new moon. However, second house of worth and values. So the challenging energy that might be coming from the taking action with the semi-square to Mars and the semi-square to Jupiter about the growth and everything, the challenge could very well be in terms of feeling worthy enough of this new path that we want. And because the yod is pointing towards the sun and is therefore, in this case, pointing towards the second house, this is kind of saying, look, you need to address your worth and values here and the resources that you hold within yourself to create the reality that you desire. At the base, with the supporting cast, we've got the 9th house and the 7th house in the mix. So 9th house is about learning and discovery. And of course, Neptune and Saturn there, wow, we are discovering a lot from what those two are doing. Lifting of the veil, lessons and tests. So major awakenings are going on within the collective. And that is forcing us somewhat to look at ourselves on a soul level. So the finger of God, the yod, pointing towards the sun, the soul essence. It's focus on the soul. Focus on your soul. Focus on your worth and values. And do you believe worthy enough of this new reality? Because I'm showing you stuff. You're discovering it, 9th house. What have you learned from what I've shown you? 9th house with Neptune and Saturn there. And the North Node is there. Okay, so this is about discovery on our path that is heading more towards trusting our intuition and being guided by that. So Neptune, Saturn, I'm revealing this to you. I am testing you. What are you learning about it? Are you going to focus on your worth and values? Are you looking at your soul? Are you, you know what I mean? Like in that harsh way that Saturn can deliver those messages. And yeah, it's just, there's a lot with those two. But the 7th house is also in the mix because that's where Pluto is, also at the base. So relationships with people, places, things. So we're discovering what Neptune and Saturn are showing us, and we're being reminded of our path. We're discovering what we need to discover on our path forward, and we're learning a lot. And we're also understanding how our relationships with people, places, and things are impacting or influencing our worth and values, and therefore our soul essence. So with this yod, focus on the soul essence. Focus on your soul and getting things in order for your new reality. And to do that, look at your relationships with people, places, things. Are they in alignment with your soul's truth? This is going to be a lesson that Saturn, when he moves back into Pisces, he's going to go over old ground, by the way, because he's going to go into Pisces and he's going to be saying, right, I've had my little holiday in Aries, but I'm coming back to see if you've got things in alignment with your soul's truth. And if you haven't, don't worry, I've got a few lessons up my sleeve. So you're going to learn one way or another. And I say that in quite a harsh way because that is like Saturnian energy. He does not mess around. He takes emotion out of things because he wants us to get things done. Virgo energy likes to have things in order. So that energy together is quite good. But we need to understand, what have we been discovering from this period? What have we been really understanding about our relationships with people, places, and things? Are they in alignment or not? Do they need to transform in some way or not? Are they conducive to our path forward or not? Are they affecting our worth and values? Are they bringing value? Are they adding value to our life? Are they adding value to your soul's experience with the sun there? Not to mention your emotional home, because look at that. The sun is conjunct the UK's natal moon, emotional home. We want to feel emotions with the moon. We want to feel in control of our reality, earth energy. But do we feel worthy of feeling in control of our reality if our relationships are all over the place? Do we feel worthy of our reality that we're trying to build for ourselves if we're not putting boundaries in place and we're not understanding what Neptune is showing us? Okay, so there's focus there. Now, the other thing I noticed was that Venus, transiting Venus, is close to the ascendant for the UK's chart. Okay, so there is a big thing about values here, a big thing. And there is that nurturing essence, there is the feminine essence. Of course, the moon rules Cancer. So there is a lot to do with our emotional home. But look at the UK's natal ascendant, 29 degrees, final anaretic degree. So it's hitting the emotions, it's hitting the feels. Okay, this new cycle ahead, the theme of it could test our emotions with some things. It's understanding how we can work with that energy. And let's not forget, I harped on just there about relationships. And it's not just with people, it's with places and things. So relationship with a job, a relationship with a place. Are they in alignment or not with your values going forward? Pallas wants you to strategize here. And that's where that beautiful trine is. So it's still to do with relationships. We can strategize how things can change, how we can adapt things in those relationships with people, places, things. And fourth house, on a foundational level, taking that action, building those foundations to ensure that there is balance. Okay. So that's all I'm going to cover there. I just wanted to show you context really with the house system. But let's go to the new moon and look at this. I've got shadows coming here from the window pane now because of the sun moving around. But we're going to keep the sunlight because we like the natural light. So let's now go to this second chart. Bear with me. I'm just going to take some water. In my flamingo glass, flamingos dare to be different. So we might have to dare to be different as we move forward and evolve. Okay, new moon in Virgo, 9 hours and 32 minutes after the sun ingresses into Virgo. So it's still at the start, and that's why it's at 0 degrees. So 22nd or 23rd of August, depending on where you are in the world because of time zones. So for the UK, it's actually the 23rd of August at 7:06 a.m. 7:06:33 to be precise. Okay. So again, freeze frame of the cosmos at the time of the new moon. And you can see it there. So for a new moon, the sun and the moon form an exact conjunction, degrees and minutes. And that's the moment where they are both at 0 degrees, 23 minutes. Again, ignore the house numbers. But there is an interesting intuitive message to this, because when I was marking this up, and I really do need a stylus pen because I'm trying to mark them up with my finger. And every now and then, the line is not as straight as I like it to be. Because, little fun fact for you, if you don't already know, because I have said this before, I'm a Pisces, but I've got a lot of Virgo in my chart. So I like things to be perfect. And life isn't like that. And I have to accept that. But I might get a line that's a bit bendy, and it really frustrates me. And no matter how many times I do it, it just continues. So I mark it up, and obviously when I zoom in, I can see it more. But what I noticed was interesting is that the number 12 is slightly obscured And this is now my Piscean brain kicking in, because you might not have even noticed it, but I was intuitively drawn to that because I thought, okay, I'm marking it up. The house numbers are not applicable in this case because we're just looking at the event. However, the number 12 is slightly obscured, but the 12th house represents the subconscious and the hidden elements. That is the Piscean house. So I thought, right, there's stuff that's still hidden that's coming up. Okay, there's stuff that's still hidden and slightly obscured. So this new moon, although it's not a full moon, because full moons illuminate, but this new moon might still reveal some stuff between the new moon and the full moon eclipse in Pisces, particularly could. Okay, I feel that intuitively. But we know we've got Saturn and Neptune doing their thing. Things are going to be coming up. It's whether we notice them, you know. So again, it's about being open to all of that and being shown for our own good. Okay. So the yod is still there. And now we've got it pointing towards the moon on the sun because of that exact conjunction. So there's focus on the soul and there's focus on the emotional home. So we've had that little precursor, you know, the 9 hours, 32 minutes in Virgo season before this new moon to try and have a bit of an idea of where we might want to go in this new zodiac season, consider things. And then it's like, okay, now I've got to look at my emotions as part of this. And again, feeling in control. So wanting to get things in order on a soul level and feeling in control of things from an emotional home perspective. And interestingly, so the degrees and minutes, the minutes 23, well, 2 and 3 is 5, 5, 5 change. That is definitely a sign of the times at the moment. But the other thing that was interesting is look at this. Pars Fortuna that moves around the chart quite quickly, but this is a free frame of the cosmos at the time of the new moon, 11 degrees 10. Look at the ascendant of the event, 11:10 on the left. The ascendant or rising sign, okay, when we look at our own charts, that shows us how we show up in the world. So how people see us, okay, because that's how we show up. It's almost like a bit of a social mask. Because we can be a certain sun sign, but our rising might be different. And therefore, unless people really get to know us on a soul level, they're going to see what the rising presents to them. So this is obviously the chart of the event. So for me, it felt like, right, this is the new moon showing up as the new moon showing up. Okay, the ascendant, the rising. People are going to see this new moon, not see it literally, okay, because we can't necessarily see it literally, but I'm saying about we're acknowledging, that's a better word, we're acknowledging the new moon as quite a fortuitous one, because Pars Fortuna, the pot of fortune, is exactly conjunct degrees and minutes the ascendant of the chart. So it's pivotal in terms of our acknowledgement, how we see this new moon for us. Okay, so the success comes from how we notice, acknowledge this lunar event. If we see it as an opportunity to manifest a new beginning for us that's aligned with our values, etc., 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 it's going to bring us the success that's attributed to that. If we see this new moon as a bit of a what's the point, well, that's just going to come back to us, isn't it? So we'll see what the aspects are, and then I'm going to return to this theme. But how amazing is that? The exact alignment, free swim of the cosmos at that time. And as I've said, because I look at the chart, 7:06:33. That's the exact moment that the sun and the moon come into that direct alignment. So it's pivotal in that respect. Okay, so the yod is still pointing to the sun, but has the moon in the mix. So I've already covered that. Let's focus on getting things in order from a soul perspective and feeling in control of things when it comes to our reality. We've still got the same supporting cast, Neptune and Saturn at the base, as well as Pluto. So that message is still the same with regards to the underlying transformation, the lifting of the veil, the awakening to what we need to see, and the lessons and tests that Saturn is putting us through in order to get our emotional home in order, to feel in control of things, to get our soul essence in order, you know, to have everything in order, basically. So that's still the case. We've still got a square to Lilith. So, I mean, obviously, you know, this is just 9.5 hours really after the sun moves in. So a lot of these aspects are the same. But one thing that's different, because we've still got the semi-square to Jupiter, although I've not marked it up on here, but we've still got the semi-square to Jupiter, but we haven't got the semi-square to Mars now. So it's almost like Mars has been set free. Okay, so, and it's interesting because there is a grand trine, I'll come on to that, but there's still that challenge for being open to opportunities. And for the new moon, and this is going back to this thing of how we see this new moon is fundamental to the success of the new moon for us. So we need to overcome the challenges to being open to opportunities and believing in opportunities as part of this. Surrender comes into this as well, generally, when it comes to manifestation and intention setting, because we can manifest all we like. If we don't believe it, it's absolutely pointless. Okay. So, yeah, we've still got the challenging energy with the shadow aspects. And now, because Uranus is here and there is that close conjunction, not exact 4 degrees off here, but with the midheaven of the chart, there is also the square that's forming to that as well. So we're still a bit perhaps resistant of change, perhaps resistant to changing our outlook or perspective, because that's the other message here that's just coming through to me with Gemini, you know, looking at things from both sides and being a bit inquisitive. Well, needing to do that quite swiftly, or, you know, that's fundamental to change, but maybe we're resistant to doing that because we have a fixed view of what something should be, which again is the shadow side of the Virgo aspect. They might be resistant to looking at something from a different perspective in order to create change. It's like, no, I want it to change. It has to be this way. Have you considered it might happen this way? So again, the openness with Jupiter comes into it here as well. And actually saying, okay, fair enough. You know, this is what I'm trying to manifest or set my intentions for with this new moon. I recognize I need to be open to opportunities. I'm going to nurture myself through this process because I'm aware of cycles that do need to close out. So as I'm detaching from these and I'm trying to move forward into, you know, my path that's for me, I appreciate I've got to be open to opportunities, and I've got to be open to what Neptune is revealing and what Saturn might be showing me. And also, you know, the inspiration that's coming through, the insight that's coming through, and maybe I do need to look at things from both sides. So it's having more of an openness to it, okay? And how we're seen, you know, with that midheaven there, it's kind of like, you know, social status and all of that, and how other people see us. And there needs to be a less judgy of ourselves view of that, which again is that different perspective. If we're always a bit conscious of how other people view us, that can affect worth and values as well, that previous message. But also it's needing to understand, okay, fair enough, there are different perspectives to things. Some people might see me as this, other people might see me as that, but I know my truth and my authentic soul essence, and that's all that matters. But I can appreciate the different perspectives. So having more of an open outlook, and that can be tough. So the square would make sense there because it's challenging. Okay. not only for change with Uranus, but the perspective thing, particularly because the midheaven is involved in this one as well. But Mars has been set free, as I mentioned. So Mars is actually in this grand air trine with Pallas and also the midheaven of the chart. So it's air energy. So it's very much about thoughts and communication. But also, I do feel that air does move things along. It's not like water energy where you've got the flow, but air, you know what I mean? There is some kind of movement to that. And the cardinal energy here is coming from Mars. So although, yeah, he doesn't like being in Libra, it's pushing through the barriers here because now he's almost been set free from the minor challenge when it comes to getting things in order. It's almost like he's ready to kind of get things started now and to utilize the Pallas energy of strategizing as well as that understanding of, okay, if I want to do this, I've got to accept that people might see me in a different way, but that's okay because I'm working on my true authentic soul expression and that is who I am. There could still be that challenge just from Mars in Libra because he doesn't particularly like being in Libra. However, it goes back to that concept of the balance and fairness that Libra energy can bring. So harmony, you're doing things from a place of desiring harmony in your life and it's acceptance of other people's perspectives, not necessarily saying you agree, but it's acceptance, acknowledgement and acceptance of it, okay, as well as strategizing, certainly within connections with others, but also strategizing for your path and you know your way forward, your reality, what you're trying to carve out for yourself. Okay, and in terms of that, planting those metaphorical seeds, we've got Ceres there. There is a sesqui square from the sun and moon across. So again, minor challenging energy there, where we do need to focus on and be reminded of, because we need to remind ourselves what we're trying to achieve. What are those metaphorical seeds we're trying to plant for our reality? You know, and there's nurturing energy to Ceres as well because it is a feminine asteroid, and there is expansive potential. So of course what we're planting, metaphorically speaking, we are wanting to grow. So it's believing in that as well. And certainly with a new moon, we need to believe in what we're trying to set intentions about. Is it aligned with ourself, with the Aries energy? Is it aligned with our soul's truth? Is it aligned with our values? So it's looking at that as part of it. But again, the trine to Chiron is still there. So it is still healing us on that sovereign level because we're understanding we have got to focus on ourselves. And maybe for a while, we've not really done that. If we've been people pleasing or just naturally being overgiving. Okay, and it's understanding that now the spotlight has kind of had to come back on us. That can also feel quite challenging, and there can be resistance to that as well because it's like, oh wow, now I've got to actually do things that I want to do, and what have I pushed down, what have I suppressed? So it's understanding all of that, okay, as part of this. But certainly pivotal how we see, how we, I don't mean literally, like, let's not get confused with this. I mean, how we perceive this new moon. If we feel this is going to be a major opportunity for us on our path forward because of this pocket portal that I've mentioned, this cycle within a cycle, this is the starting point of it. So if we see it as an absolute starting point for an amazing period where, okay, it might have some challenges, but we can now focus on getting things in order for our reality. I will just show you the chart against the UK's chart. So there, okay, again, it's going to look messy in the middle because it's a smaller space, but I've marked up the same. Now, again, not much time difference, 9 hours, 32 minutes after the sun ingresses in, are still in the second house. So still focus on the second house of worth and values, what we're learning with the ninth house, and our relationships with people, places, things. So that stays the same. Venus is obviously getting closer to that ascendant line. So still about values and still about that feminine nurturing energy and what we're trying to create for our reality and how that aligns with how we show up. Okay. But look at this. What I showed you on the chart, which of course was the ascendant represented by AS there. That's the ascendant of the event, the lunar event. 11-11. So it's 11-10, 11-10, right? 11-11 is alignment. But this, when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, because it's the exact degrees and minutes. This is in, for the UK's natal chart, the 3rd house of expression. So you can't get much clearer than this, can you? This is about how we perceive this new moon as a lunar event that kickstarts this pocket portal, how we perceive it in our lives. Are we going to make the best use of it? Well, it might involve our expression, 3rd house. That's where it might challenge things, because we've got to perceive the new moon how we perceive it, and then express what we're trying to achieve as part of our intention settings in alignment, 11-11, with this. That's where the success comes in. So this can be very much a foreshadowing of what we're trying to manifest for our new reality going forward. We're entering this pocket portal that I keep, that's my little trademark phrase. We're entering that, and we're going to have the eclipses coming up, which is going to be absolute heightened energy. And that's going to reveal a lot as well. But if we can ride the waves of that, and we understand this is at the starting point, this new moon is at the starting point of Virgo, and we've got the other one that's closing out Virgo at 29. It's an absolute cycle. So how do we perceive this cycle for us? Are we going to make the best use of this cycle that is ahead of us and the eclipses and all the energy that is contained within? Are we going to make the best use of it to manifest for our reality what we want? We need to ensure that we feel worthy of that, and that what we're discovering, 9th house, on our path in relation to our relationships with people, places, things, are they in alignment with our values? Are they challenging our worth? Okay, and where do we need to speak up about that 3rd house? Okay, to get things in order, Virgo energy. Okay, so we can ultimately detach from cycles. This is a cycle within a cycle, and there's still detachment that comes from it, because the full moon is the lunar energy that helps us release, but we can be detaching at any point. If we know that the cycle needs to close out, we work through it on our time because it's our journey, but we understand, okay, yeah, I've got to close out that cycle. Maybe I need to do this first. Maybe I need to get this in alignment first. But I know that this cycle, whatever it might be, is no longer serving my highest good. As I've evolved and ascended, it's no longer in alignment with me. It doesn't align with my values anymore. It's led me to question my worth, and I don't deserve that. So I need to detach from it. Okay, those are examples. So it's understanding that, and then taking the appropriate action with Mars to restore balance in that way by focusing on the self. Okay, this is our journey, it's nobody else's. So how you perceive this new moon as a starting point of this pocket portal that is going to include the eclipses, it's going to involve Saturn moving back into Pisces, testing your spiritual integrity. Are you ready for it? Okay. Do you perceive this new moon as an opportunity to get things in order? Remember, it's starting at the start of Virgo, and it's the other new moon is at the closeout of Virgo. So this is closing out a cycle for sure. Okay, with illumination happening in between. So if there's an openness and a willingness and an acceptance of, okay, this might be shown to me, I need some clarity on this. I'm willing to look at this from a different perspective, but ultimately this is what I'm trying to create in my reality. And I need to make sure I'm going to introspect. I'm going to make sure that these things are in alignment. And if they're not, I understand that I'm going to have to close out those cycles, for example. Okay, very powerful. Now, the other thing to mention as well is Saturn, you know, transiting Saturn, who is, of course, retrograde, is at that 0 degrees point of Aries. And I've mentioned that he's obviously then activating the cusp point again. So it's absolutely endings, beginnings, endings, beginnings. But he is on top of the UK's natal Uranus. So this is about major change. And also, I mean, the word karmic gets thrown about quite a bit these days. But karmic cycles and karmic lessons that Saturn is obviously serving up, but karmic cycles, there needs to be change. There needs to be like close out of these. So this is why it might be, oh my gosh, this is coming up, this is coming up, because we're having to understand the wisdom of that to understand if it's right or wrong for us. And Uranus is about sudden change. And earthquakes can be attributed to Uranus. Okay, so think about that happening within yourself. You know, it's almost like shaking the foundations, because again, we need to understand what is going on in order to create the change that's needed. Okay, I know I went off on one a bit about that, but there we go. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show you, and I think I'll do another video on this, particularly with the pocket portal. I might not call it that because people might think, what is she talking about? But here is the new moon eclipse in Virgo at the end of Virgo season. So for us in the UK, 21st of September, but it will be the 22nd of September for people in Australia. Okay, and for us in the UK, 20:53:51 to be precise. Okay, and you can see 29 degrees 5 minutes, so closing out that final anaretic degree before Libra season and before the equinox. Okay, so yeah, not a big deal at all. I mean, all this energy, whoosh, so much going on. And if you haven't already noticed, I mean, Mother Earth is purging because we're purging. Okay, so here is the chart just to show you, but as I was trying to say, and I think I got sidetracked, I might do another video that focuses on the pocket portal itself. So the new moon in Virgo at the start, the full moon in Pisces, and then this new moon at the end. I might just do it to cover that. I mean, I'm sort of covering it a bit now, but you know, going into a bit more detail maybe if I feel that that's needed. But because obviously this is coming up in September, but I'm trying to give you this heads up about this, what I call the pocket portal, because it's got these eclipses within it. So at this point, we would have already had that full moon in Pisces with the eclipse, and that's happening on the 7th of September for us in the UK, the 8th of September for Australia. Saturn will have retrograded back into Pisces just before that, and Uranus will also have started retrograde, because you can see he's in retrograde there with the red numbers. So yeah, all of this, you know, there's a lot going on. So at this point, we're at the closeout pretty much of Virgo season, aren't we? And it's the closeout of this cycle within a cycle. So detachment, further illumination, all of these things that we're trying to close out. Okay, and even though, you know, Neptune at this point is still in Aries, he's now at the 0 degree cusp point. So endings, beginnings, as I keep saying. Saturn is in Pisces, going back over old ground, testing spiritual integrity, and still got lessons and tests up his sleeve if we still are not in alignment with our soul's truth. That's the important thing with Saturn going back into Pisces, because he's going to be there up until 14th of February for the UK, 14th of February 2026. Happy Valentine's Day to us when he moves back into Aries. Because, you know, he's going back over old ground, but since the 7th of March 2023, he was serving up lessons, testing soul's truth. Is that in alignment with your spiritual integrity? He's going to ask the same questions because he's going back over old ground. So it's another window of opportunity to get fully aligned with soul's truth. But again, because it's going back over old ground, it's kind of, do we need to repeat any cycles here? So it's understanding that from Saturn. Okay, and even though we've got them both in different signs, they are still close enough together to be conjunct. So they're still working together, and it's going to be, I think it's the 22nd of October when Neptune then moves back into Pisces as well. And of course, Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces, so he is at home. But with Saturn there as well, it's still going to be lifting of the veil. It's still going to be quite testy. Okay, to make sure that we are trusting our intuition and following our inner compass. Revealing deception, revealing sabotage, self-sabotage, illusion, fantasy. But getting us in touch with our intuition, because our intuition will not lie to us. So we have to be shown these things. Okay, so that's going to be a month after this point. He's going to move back into Pisces as well. So we've got a bit of time. He's still hovering over that cusp point, which again is still saying endings, beginnings, endings, beginnings. And this is what's been continuing this year, this theme. So the yod that's marked up on the chart here is now pointing towards Mars. And Mars is at the final anaretic degree of Libra. So he's going to soon be moving into Scorpio, and the masculine's going to be going deep. Okay, so this can be challenging anyway, final anaretic degree. So not only have we got Mars going through it a bit, the masculine essence of taking action, perhaps believing in oneself. Something was coming through to me there about confidence. So confidence in terms of taking the action that's needed, especially wrapping up cycles. Okay, and also how we feel on a soul level about that, and how we feel in our emotions about that, because perhaps we've had to relinquish a bit of control over these things, and it has been a step out of a comfort zone. Okay, so, you know, and actually Venus at this point is now in Virgo. All right, so getting our values in order, which lines up with the worth and values message before as well. But anyway, I digress. So the yod is pointing towards Mars. It's pointing towards, the focus is on action, but the focus is on confidence, I feel, here. And at the base, we've still got Neptune and Saturn. Okay, so that still remains about what they're revealing. And we've also got Pars Fortuna, which at this point will be at Taurus. And I don't know if you've noticed this other amazing thing. 28 degrees, 23 minutes, and look on the left. What is the ascendant of the chart? Oh, it's 28 degrees, 23 minutes. So this pocket portal that I've been talking about, that some of you might have been laughing at when I mentioned the phrase for the first time, is absolutely profound, because Pars Fortuna lining up on both new moons exactly with the ascendant of the astrological event chart. No coincidence. This is Taurus. This is about physical reality. It's about security and stability. Okay. And also Uranus is there because there is that conjunction. Uranus is retrograde, as I mentioned. So yeah, change within our reality, change in terms of security and stability. and how that lines up with how we show ourselves, how we show up in the world. Okay, because we want to be secure, we want to be stable. We also have to accept that change is part of this process, because Uranus is there reminding us of that. And there is this trine that's actually going to the sun and the moon. So how beautiful is that? Now, the last new moon chart, it was 11:10, wasn't it? And it was past Fortuna once again. And I'm sorry, like, for this to happen for both new moon charts is amazing. So success, and success can come in many, many ways. Success, once again, is how we perceive this new moon at the end of the cycle now, as it relates to our security, our stability, and our physical reality, as well as the change that is needed. So if we are accepting, for example, from the very start, we perceive that first new moon in Virgo to be the opportunity for us to get things in order, to take action where we needed to detach from cycles, X, Y, Z. We go through the full moon eclipse in Pisces, and I haven't got that chart to show you because I will do that separate video, but we've got that in the middle, highlighting more, illuminating more to us, showing us what we need to see. Saturn, then testing our spiritual truth. Is everything in alignment as it should be? And we had that acknowledgement at the start that it's an opportunity for us to go through all of that, to understand what we've got to detach from in order to carve out the future that we're wanting to experience, but working with the energy to do it in that methodical way. And if we've seen it as that, and we understand that this new moon in Virgo number 2 is at the end of the cycle, and we understand, right, it's very much about working through this period of time from new moon to new moon to ensure that we are detaching from cycles that are not in alignment with our values and our worth, and so on and so on. And if we've seen it like that throughout, we understand, there's an understanding we're at the end of the cycle here, okay, before we move into Libra season. And the equinox, which is another new beginning. So it's closing out the old in order to bring in the new. And if we've understood that, and we understand that our security and stability relies on ourselves, the action that we're needing to take, and the confidence in which we do so whilst embracing change, then that is where that success comes in for us. Because it's the belief in ourselves to achieve what we've set out to achieve from the very first new moon. Okay? But riding the waves as we do so. But if there's acknowledgement of that as the process, and the pocket portal is bringing us that, then that is going to ultimately lead us to the success that we want in our physical reality. Okay, and showing up in the world as somebody who has got it together. Because when we think of being secure and stable in ourselves, someone who's got it together, we know our worth. Taurus energy, that is Empress energy, that is about knowing one's worth. I am going to create this for my life because I am worthy of it. Very powerful, isn't it? Very, very powerful. That's the yod, I mean, and the trine. And there is opposition. The opposition is to Neptune and Saturn. So, of course, there's going to be that friction, that resistance, because we're still having to see things. We're still being tested. So it's going to be testy. And also, the sun and the moon are both at 29 degrees, which is a challenging degree to be in because it is closing out a cycle. So it's like getting to the end of something and being like, oh my goodness me, I just want the new to start. You know, that kind of resistance and frustration that can be felt. There is a sextile to Juno in Scorpio. So commitment to this, like I've just mentioned, commitment to what this new moon is revealing, what this new moon is bringing for us, what the pocket portal in itself, I love that phrase, what that period of time has enabled us to achieve, our commitment to that first and foremost, and the depth of that with Scorpio energy. But also, this could be bringing in soul contracts that are now aligned with this new that we are wanting to experience for our lives, because we've gone through that period of time, we've closed out things that are not serving us. So maybe it's now time for more deep soul connections that are in alignment with our values, that are in alignment with our soul's truth, because we've made space, because we've closed out cycles. Okay, amazing. But sorry, the past Fortuna alignment exact conjunction with the ascendant of both of those new moon charts. No coincidence. And I always look at the chart, and I'm going to pull up this next one. I always look at the chart at the exact time that the new moon is, when the sun and the moon are in exact conjunction. And to have that exact alignment, knowing that past Fortuna moves fast, no coincidence. No coincidence. So this is just showing you again the context of the house system here for the UK's chart. Okay, so the new moon, that's going to happen in the 3rd house, because of course going through that period of time, challenging the expression, okay, our expression, and also in terms of what we are discovering and unearthing from what Neptune and Saturn are showing us. But this is what I like. This sextile to Juno's in the 5th house. So that is very much about heart-centered energy. It's the joy and happiness we can experience. That house is ruled by Leo. So it is very much about, our authentic expression. It can be creative and artistic expression, because that can bring a lot of joy. And it's also associated with love. So again, when we look at the soul contracts, soul commitments, connections coming in that are more aligned, because we're closing out cycles that don't serve us, well, there you go. There is that harmony between the 3rd house and the 5th house. So expression is pivotal to this, though. So our own expression, how we show up as ourselves, as our true embodiment of who we are, because we're closing out cycles that relate to a past version of ourselves, and connections that no longer serve us, cycles that no longer serve us. And we've understood our worth and values, and now it's about the resonance with our expression. And perhaps we do need to communicate and speak up about this, and maybe that's what enables us to kind of attract those soul connections that vibe with us. But ultimately making space, because we are being that authentic expression of ourselves, and embodying that from a heart-centered place, is also enabling that Juno energy to come forth. But it's commitment to our path. It's commitment to having got things in order during Virgo season and during the lunar events taking place, that's allowing us to open the heart space more as well. So to open up the heart chakra for opportunities, to do more of what we love, because we've made space for that. That brings the joy. That's going to attract more joy to us. Okay. And this is also a new moon. So it is about vibing with that. It's being committed to doing things that do bring us that joy, with the Juno energy in the 5th house, and how we express ourselves in that. And that is the ultimate, manifestation of that reality we want to experience. We want to feel joyful. We want to do things we enjoy, and we want to feel that joy. So it's about aligning with that and feeling secure and stable enough in ourselves, as I mentioned just before, in order to do that, to pursue it, to achieve it. And acknowledging where we might still need to do some work around that, because life is an ever evolving journey. We're always needing to kind of pivot, introspect, heal. Okay. That is part of the journey. So, and that's what teaches us a lot of wisdom. Here we've got that conjunction there. You can see it here. So this is happening for the UK in the 11th house of connections with others. So absolutely, you know, in your connections with others, how you show up in those connections with others as somebody who is that Empress energy of owning your worth and feeling stable and secure enough in yourself within your connections with others, owning your values in that respect as well, is going to be pivotal to the success you have in your connections with others. Okay. And I think that's all I wanted to say with that one. Yeah, that trine that's going from the 3rd house to the 11th house is definitely linked to expression. Absolutely. Absolutely. But there we are. Okay. Let's round it off there. As the sun is shining through, let me just do that. Bit of heat off my face. There we go. But I didn't want to shut out the sunlight because it's nice to have the natural light. It absolutely is. And, you know, it's no coincidence that I'm talking about soul essence, you know, the sun moving into Virgo. The resonance this is going to have when it comes to the new moons and this pocket portal, the cycle within a cycle. You know, it's about getting things in order. Virgo is about getting things in order, being quite meticulous, being quite methodical. But remember the strategy of Pallas. So we can strategize and we can plan. We need to nurture ourselves through the process. We need to be open to opportunities, but to also feel worthy of those opportunities because we know what's in alignment with our spiritual integrity, our soul's truth. So it's taking all of that, it's looking at it from the bigger picture. And yes, being open to opportunities might also involve being open to different perspectives, being open to the fact that people might perceive us in a certain way, and that's okay. If we know that we are stable and secure within ourselves, I think, I hope that's not a wasp. Yeah, I'm going to discover that in a moment. However, let's try not to get too panicky about that. I forgot. See, I got distracted. But it is about aligning with soul's truth and recognizing that authentic expression and feeling stable and secure enough within who you are and the belief in that. And that might have taken a lot of work. That might have taken a lot of healing because of patterns, self-limiting beliefs, you know, really building up that strength and resilience. That buzzing is getting quite loud now. Okay. I think I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to end. Oh, sorry. I have got this major fear about wasps. I don't even know if it's a wasp yet. I don't even know if it is. But that stems back to childhood from me. So maybe I was meant to say it for a reason, because there are things that can affect us early on in life. And then it's working on that going forward. It's building up that strength, that resilience, that courage, that confidence. And the Leo season will have given us a lot of that. Mercury retrograde in Leo also. But now it's about our authentic expression, how we perceive these new moons and this pocket portal to be. If we see it as an opportunity for growth, discovery, closing out cycles, and we can be open to the different perspectives and all of that, we've got that acknowledgement of that, and things might not look how we want them to look through this process, then that is going to serve us well, because we have seen, I've shown you both new moons in Virgo at the start and the finish of Virgo season, bookending the full moon in Pisces in the middle, but bookending that season, that zodiac season. It's a cycle within itself, but past Fortuna being there in alignment with the ascendant of both of those charts, which, okay, is an event, but no coincidence. The success can come from that in terms of how we perceive the lunar event to be in our life, okay? The impact that it can have on our life in a positive way. Belief and surrender is part of this. And ultimately underneath that is worth and values and how we do feel in terms of that. And remembering that anybody or anything that is no longer in resonance with your soul's truth, no longer in alignment with your values, you need to look at those cycles and understand, can they be transformed as part of this deep transformation, or are they cycles that have served their purpose and now need to be released? So there's a detachment aspect as well, because it is about cycle closeouts, but cycle closeouts can be a transformation of a situation, because obviously once it's transformed, it is a new cycle. So take what resonates, leave what doesn't, as always. Okay. And I'm sure I'll be back to do another report on that pocket portal. So looking at the new moons and the full moon in Pisces in the middle, particularly, just focusing on that. But I have covered it here as well. So hopefully it's given you some insight. And I wish you all the best for this upcoming Virgo season. We've still got a period of time in Leo, of course. So ensure that you're really getting into that regal essence, finding that courage within and owning your own sovereign expression. Okay, that's very, very important to know who you are and what you stand for at this time. So I'm sending you love and blessings, and I'll see you on the next report. Take care.